Welcome back to Robot Cantina. Your Pop-Tarts are burning, so get them out of the toaster. Grab your choice of coffee. Anything's good except for that cinnamon crap. Also, I'm going to need some help from the nerds in the audience today, so you might want to start that coffee now. As most of you know, in the previous episode, we finally achieved our goal of getting the street-legal go-kart up to 70 miles per hour. If you're new to the channel, well, we got the street-legal go-kart up to 70 miles per hour with a modified 420cc Predator engine. The fact that the car got up to 70 miles per hour is epic when you learn that we did it with a slipping clutch and the electronic fuel injection was acting up. So today, we're going to fix the clutch and address the problems with the EFI. Then we'll find out how fast this car is from 0 to 60 miles per hour. And, as a bonus, we'll break stuff and uncover more problems. The last time we had the car out to the hillbilly proving grounds, we're having a number of problems. The easiest problem to solve is the slipping clutch, so let's start with that first. So when I say we had problems with the clutch slipping, that may be confusing to some of the newer viewers. You see, this 420cc car is set up with a Comet torque converter clutch, and that feeds into the Honda Insight 5-speed transmission. The combination of the Comet torque converter clutch and the 5-speed transmission gives us an infinite amount of gear ratios to launch the car with. And this is what works best for the little 420cc engine. Check out our previous episodes where we get into more detail how the system works. Anyway, the slipping clutch was caused by changing the pucks inside the clutch. Previously, we had swapped out the heavy weight pucks for some lighter weight pucks in an attempt to tune the clutch to match the engine's output. Well, it turns out the lightweight pucks we installed were too light, and the clutch lost its ability to grip the drive belt with any kind of authority. So the set of heavy pucks weighed in at 495 grams, and we tried this combo from day one. It works, but it's not great. A set of lightweight pucks weighs in at 235 grams, and this is where we are right now. The 235 grams is just not enough internal weight for the clutch to work properly. The good news is, we can mix the heavy pucks with the lightweight pucks and come up with an alternative to the two extremes. So if we take 6 lightweight pucks and combine that with 3 heavyweight pucks, we get 325 grams. Okay, or if we take 6 heavy pucks and combine them with 3 lightweight pucks, we get 410 grams. I'm thinking we should start off with the 6 lightweight pucks with the 3 heavy pucks for a total weight of 325 grams, and give that a shot. These pucks can't be installed willy-nilly. That would upset the balance of the clutch. For this combination, we have 3 heavy pucks arranged evenly, and then we can fill in the rest of the clutch with the lightweight pucks for our total of 325 grams of weight. Tuning these type of clutches is sort of an art form, and apparently there are books written on the subject. There's a lot more to tuning than swapping out different puck weights. There's also the spring tension on the driven pulley to consider, and a bunch of other stuff. Our driven pulley is maxed out as far as tension goes, and given the limited availability of parts for the Comet 44 series clutch, all we can really do is play with the puck weights. At this point, any other changes would require custom parts, and that's too far down the rabbit hole for this project. In order to remove the clutch for servicing, we had to unbolt the engine from the cradle to get enough room for clearance. With the engine unbolted, we slid it back a bit, and we had additional room to do some impromptu service on the engine. The torque on the head bolts was checked, and all of them required additional torque to bring them back to spec. Very interesting. While we were at it, the valve lash was checked and adjusted. So let's take a detour for a moment and talk about head gaskets. This is the head gasket that we managed to pop a few episodes ago. Obviously, this is where the gasket breached, but we also have a breach here, and over here we had some leakage. I'm told to expect this with a supercharger. Anyway, we replaced the crappy gasket with an identical crappy gasket, and so far it's holding up. As a precaution, we ordered a replacement gasket from Go Power Sports, and this one wasn't cheap as far as price goes. But as you can see, it's pretty much the same crappy gasket we're already using, but this one costs 3 times as much. Well, over at the Jungle site, we picked up another replacement gasket from a no-name vendor. This one actually looks pretty decent and claims to have a stainless steel fire ring. I don't know what to think, but it looks like the gasket from the Jungle site might be better. Anyway, let's go back to the blown gasket. So right here is a small breach, and that's no big deal, right? But take a second look. This hole is where the oil from the crankcase splashes up into the rocker arm area. Remember, this engine doesn't have an oil pump and is splash lubricated. Well, This breach may have put a lot of pressure from the combustion chamber into the crankcase while the engine was running, and may have caused damage to the side cover gasket. Yeah, I know, one problem leads to another. So let's take a look at the damaged side cover gasket. Now this is a hard shot to get, so we're going to go in with the mini wide-angle camera. Okay, right here we can see the side cover gasket's been displaced, and it's ready to fail if it hasn't already. Now, the reason I bring this up is the engine's leaking oil from multiple locations. So if we move the camera, we can see oil on the back side of the cylinder, and it appears there's oil on the cooling tin. Now, this tin is above the head gasket, so the leak may be coming from the valve cover gasket. Interesting. I reckon we'll need to pull the engine out soon and reseal the side cover gasket. The valve cover gasket's no big deal. We can do that with the engine still in the car. Sorry for getting sidetracked with the gaskets and the oil leaks, and that's not really something we need to deal with today. Today we need to deal with the clutch and the problems with the electronic fuel injection. So if we look at this short data log file, we can see the unusual negative spikes on the chart. Now the white trace is the engine RPM, and what we're seeing is the engine's going from 3800 RPM to 0 RPM, then back to 3800 RPM. Of course that's impossible, but that's what the data is telling us. Normally I would think this has something to do with the crank position sensor. Yeah, that makes sense, but let's take a closer look. This spike and this spike are completely out of place. Now the red trace is the manifold pressure, and in this case it's the boost. So these random spikes indicate something is causing a strong interference with the Speeduino EFI computer. Our problem is likely going to be associated with the ignition coil or spark plug wire. Actually, the fix was easy, but we will need to go back and do some more fiddling. So what we discovered was moving the ignition coil from this position to this position completely eliminated the spikes in the data, and the engine was back to running normal. Now if you look here, this cable's for the engine coolant temperature sensor, and it's a twisted pair and heavily shielded. We've had problems in the past with this cable and taken extreme measures to shield it from the ignition system. For now it'll be fine. We may end up moving the ignition coil in the future. So, everybody who had Captain Crunch for breakfast, raise your hand. Okay, good. Apparently you folks are the brightest of the bunch. Now I have another mystery, so I've assembled our Captain Crunch team of experts. This fuel can is sort of sitting on the shop floor because some people don't put things back. Normally we like to keep the fuel cans out of the sunlight because the gasoline tends to expand and things get a little scary when you try to pour fuel from one of these modern fuel cans. Here, let me show you. Yeah, this happens all the time when you open the valve thingy and the can is partly tilted. Sort of defeats the purpose of the environmentally friendly pour spout. Anyway, you get the idea. If the can is left out in the sun and then you go to pour some gas, it'll spurt out a stream of fuel. Yay. Okay, well that sucks, but check this out. When I went to put gas in the car earlier, of course the fuel spit out of the pour spout like it usually does, but this time some of the gasoline got on the fan blades for the supercharger cooler. And two of the blades instantly popped off with a loud click. That's the weirdest thing. So here's one of the broken blades. Let's see what happens if we put gasoline on it. Meh, nothing. What's the deal? Just for fun, I let the camera roll for about an hour. Of course I'll fast forward it, but let's see what happens to the plastic over time. Well, that was disappointing. Nothing. So can anyone explain why this fan blade instantly snapped off when the gasoline splashed on it, and why it doesn't react to gasoline in our test? Now, I'm depending on the Captain Crunch team of experts, but if you had Cheerios or something like that, you can still chime in. So with everything fixed, sort of, we went back out to the hillbilly proving grounds and did some 0 to 60 acceleration runs. The first test will start off in third gear. Now, keep in mind, because of the torque converter clutch, the transmission is set up to start off in third gear. Here's what you want to watch. The white trace is the engine RPM, the yellow trace is the throttle position sensor, the red trace is the boost, and the green trace is the intake air temperature. I think all you really need to watch is the white trace, but you're free to do whatever you want. The speedometer is hard to see, so at 30, 40, 50, and 60 miles per hour, you'll hear a beep and we'll post the speed on your screen. Alright, let's see what this thing can do. So now we're going to try that again, but this time we're going to start off in 4th gear and there'll be no shifting of the transmission. So in other words, the Comet 44 Magnum torque converter clutch system will be doing all the work. I'm starting to think that we really don't need the 5-speed transmission anymore. Alright, well let's take a look at the numbers. When starting off in 3rd gear, we got to 30 miles per hour in 11.63 seconds. And when starting off in 4th gear, it took about a second longer at 12.65 seconds. 0 to 40 took 17.78 seconds in 3rd gear and 18.51 seconds in 4th. 50 miles per hour arrived in 29.32 seconds when starting off in 3rd and 30.68 seconds when starting off in 4th gear. 0 to 60, of course, is our best time yet. I think we may be faster than the Citroen 2CV and the classic Fiat 500, because neither of those cars could actually get to 60 miles per hour. So that's something, I guess. Anyway, we did it in 52.5 seconds when starting off in 3rd gear and 53.76 seconds when starting off in 4th gear. Now, we didn't do a top speed run this time around because we still need to sort out some minor details, and we need to start doing the top speed runs on the highway and not on the back roads. Although I would be surprised if this thing can go any faster than 72 to 75 miles an hour. We'll see. So let's compare the supercharger speeds with the previous non-supercharger speeds. And of course this comparison will show the acceleration times when starting off in 3rd gear. So that's certainly an improvement in acceleration times, but honestly I thought we'd see a bigger difference. And well, these times do improve a little bit when the ambient temperature is a lot higher. On today's test, it was unseasonably cold for this time of year, which is great for the engine, but it would seem the car as a whole likes the warmer temperatures. I'm not sure if the warmer, less dense air is better for the aerodynamics or the engine runs better when it's hotter. I think at this point I'm happy with the clutch. We still have one more configuration of weights to test, but I don't think we need to add weight. It's more like we need to remove weight, but that's not possible with what we have on hand. Of course, the 0 to 60 times depend on the tune of the engine, and we're really close to the final tune, but as usual we have a new problem. It's probably impossible for you to hear, but I can detect an exhaust leak, and I think it's coming from this flexible joint. So we're going to do an experiment to confirm that. Okay, at the tailpipe we're going to stuff this rag into the exhaust system. And if my friend Kay is watching, yes, this is one of your dish towels. Sorry, I can send it back if you want. Now we're going to pour some automatic transmission fluid into the throttle body. This will make a lot of smoke, and we should be able to tell where the exhaust leak is. Okay, well it's still kind of hard to say for sure. Let's try that again. Yeah, it looks like this is where the leak is. But we also have some cameras under the car. Let's check them to be sure. So we're going to watch this joint here. Alright, that one looks fine. Now let's watch the muffler. Yeah, this car has a huge muffler, but it ain't any good keeping the car quiet with the supercharger, that's for sure. Looks like a little bit of a leak, and we can fix that no problem. So it really looks like the flexible joint is leaking. Who cares, right? Well, the oxygen sensor may care, and it may be affecting our tune. I think we need to fix this flexible joint, and while we're at it, we'll move the oxygen sensor above the flexible joint. Now, easier said than done. We will likely have to extend this pipe a bit and mount the flex joint lower so the oxygen sensor isn't too close to the exhaust port. Yeah, we'll sort this out, don't worry. I reckon we still got some stuff to do, so until next time. So I have a habit of placing Easter eggs in my videos. Usually each video has one or two. In today's video, one of the Easter eggs was hard to spot, especially without any context. So here it is again. Yeah, that's our new project car. It's red like a Ferrari or a Porsche, but trust me, it's neither one of those.